Hello, everyone. Welcome to the PIPCAST 3000. I'm Caedo Genesis. This is a bi-weekly podcast where we talk about gaming news and have a Bethesda-centric topic. I am joined by my co-host, Bad Company Sarge.
Hello there.
And a special guest, returning guest for maybe the third time, William Strife.
Hello, everyone. My name is William Strife. I have been doing Fallout content for a long time. I remember the dawn of YouTube.
And you've been here since.
Yes, I've been here basically since the dawn of YouTube. So you know, I'm what you call a old man yelling at cloud.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and topical because we both play and have played Final Fantasy VII, which makes it even more.
I mean, I think I saw someone make a meme out of the old man yelling at cloud and switched it to Barrett for the the remake. So.
That's funny.
It's a wonderful sense of humor.
That's great. Well, this is a special episode, not just having you on, Will, but also we had the Summer Games Fest happen, and a whole bunch of things were shown, like world premieres and reveals and all that stuff, and also the Starfield Direct. So we're primarily going to be focusing on the Starfield Direct. We'll go over the Summer Games Fest stuff a little bit, like what our highlights were, and then we'll jump right into the Starfield topic. For those of you salivating at the Starfield discussion and wanting more people to talk about it. It's also like a week later, so.
Is it like a bad thing that I have no highlights out of Summer Game Fest because it was too much content to consume?
No, I don't think. It's okay to be overwhelmed too.
Good.
Sometimes. I would like to mention first, we do a comment of the cast before we jump into the new stuff. So I wanted to have maybe Sarge. Would you like to read the comment from last episode where we talked about the gamer article that the writer didn't know what they were talking about? What they talked about?
One of these.
It was particularly bad. Norse Firefighter says, do the writers just look at a general list of Google search terms or something? And that pretty much does sum it up. It was... Was it like... it was the Easter egg one, right? Was it that one?
Was...
The problem is it's
hidden
got
hidden
like
details. Yeah, we applied the term Easter eggs by the end of it, but it was 21 hidden details in Fallout real fans completely missed. And it was one of the worst The Gamer articles we have ever gone over.
Because I remember going over The Gamer, one of these The Gamer articles the last time I was on.
Yeah, you got one of the best.
You got one
written
of the good ones. Yeah.
Really?
There's been like 2 or 3 which is like, that is an acceptable article, and about 50 which is like, what are you on about? And this one went from like super obvious stuff to super obscure stuff to just not making any sense at all, just all over the place.
The writer was making up their headcanon on the fly, and like we could tell.
What time is it? Thursday.
A good sign.
Like what? Wait. What time is it? Turkey leg. It's just wait. What?
Yep.
Like that level of just huh?
Yeah. It was quite a lot of nonsense. And just making stuff up. It was fun to pick it apart.
I mean,
Okay.
if you've got no content for the week because you're waiting on Summer Games Fest, then why not, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
To point out the kind of dichotomy of the hidden things they went for, there was Christmas in Diamond City, which is like super obvious and kind of in your face.
And they brought up Halloween also,
Yep.
which the decorations are always there.
Yeah, and they also claim that the Starship Nostromo model is hidden within the flux sensor. And I don't know how they saw that, because I can't see it, and I've like looked at both images pretty up close.
Yeah, that
Like,
doesn't sound sensible
no.
at all. And believe me, I have problems with Fallout 4 to the degree that I've played too much of it to try and prove my problems with Fallout 4. It's like the exact opposite thing you're supposed to do with a game that you have problems with. You shouldn't play more of it, and look at what I've done.
It's a curse, a burden you must bear.
Maybe since we have a like a really solid release date. What was it? The 9th of September or something, or was it the
6th of
12th?
September.
The 6th of September for the release of Starfield. Now, God willing, all of those hours that I've spent in Fallout 4 will actually come to fruition before the release of Starfield, and I can actually put out that stupid video that I've been writing an essay about for like 3 years.
I didn't know this was a planned thing still.
I still want to do it. Oh my God, do I ever want to do it? But every single time I look at the script, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. And I think I'm getting down to a point where it's like, dude, you are either going to get this thing out in a reasonable, like before their next game or not. And you might not be okay with what you put out, but maybe sometimes just finishing is what's important, you know?
You sound like me and my Deus Ex guides.
Oh my God. Which Deus Ex?
Mankind Divided.
Oh man.
I did three guides on it. One of them I don't think even matters anymore. It's a triangle code guide. Their QR code kind of tacked on thing that they added. I spent so much time making that guide, and it's probably useless.
I mean, God, I never played that one. I played Human Revolution whenever it was new, and then Mankind Divided came out, and I was like, oh, I should give that a shot. And I picked it up on like a Steam sale, and then I just kind of forgot I had it. So
yeah, it's a game. I recommend Human Revolution over it all the time.
Oh,
it's a lot better and contained.
Well, let's not dwell on older games. Let's move on.
Okay. Yep. I mean, I'm going to dwell on older games later on, but we can expand the gap a little bit of time, so we can talk about things that we saw at Summer Games Fest that perhaps excited us or made us raise an eyebrow or cheer and yell and scream through the apartment. Or at least feel that in spirit. Sarge, can we start with you? Whatever you saw from the Summer Games Fest?
Yeah, ProZD had like a skit in it, which he uploaded to his own YouTube channel, and it's like a minute long rather than 4 hours. So I was a big fan.
Was it the Marvel Snap thing?
Yeah, he literally just did like when you have a bad turn in a card game or sort of thing. It's a funny little video. Hey, it's a funny video. But, yep, that's my highlight.
Really?
Caedo, it was 4 hours. We discussed this before we started recording. Not only was it 4 hours, but it feels like the past 2 weeks had like all of the conferences, and I don't understand why they all have to happen at the same time. It's too much. I can't deal with it all.
Okay. I think Sarge was a little bit overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't blame you because it's like, yeah, I took one look at the replay and I was like, 4 hours. Wow, let's click. I didn't see anything in the dozen clicks that I'd put in for 4 hours that I used to like skip across the video, and I was like, okay, I think I'm done. It's like,
yeah,
it's
I did
like
do the click as well, and like Remnant 2 looks alright. That's about as strong a feeling as I have on anything listed here.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, most of these games aren't for me. Like, I'm not a big story first person, not third person. Like, and a lot of them seem to be that.
Insofar as what came out of the Summer Games Fest that I know I'm interested in, and it's like we have basically entered the age of the remake for video games.
Oh yes.
Just like there was a period of like remasters that they were doing during the age of the PlayStation 3 and stuff, and now we are just in full-fledged like, hey, let's go back to the PlayStation 2 era and let's just remake stuff. And there's a lot of that going on right now. And Persona 3 is really the big one for me. Persona 3, like I remember, this is the weirdest way I ever found out about a video game. It was back when, I think it was about 2 or 3, probably 2 years before the 4th Persona game came out. I was on Amazon looking around for some sort of product, and whatever passed for an algorithm back then had figured out that I was a gamer, and it was like, hey, you might be interested in this. And it showed this, I guess you might call it a sizzle trailer or something for Persona 3, and it was supposed to be the definitive edition. It was Persona 3 FES. And they were like, check it out, it's a video. And video on Amazon at that time was like kind of unheard of. So I was like, okay, you've got my attention. This is not something I expected to see on Amazon. So I'll click play. And I watched it and I was like, holy shit, this looks amazing, you know? Mm-hmm. So then the next day, instead of buying it from Amazon, I went out to GameStop and I bought it.
Nice.
But that was my first game that introduced me to the Persona franchise. And I've played the third one, the fourth one, and the fifth one. Thus far, in my personal opinion, I thought that the fourth one was the best, just because it had some twists to the writing that I really didn't see coming. Just to see that remade, I'm very interested in it. So it's story driven. It's tied to a linear timeline. Like literally, you go to bed and then you see a movement on a calendar, and then you get the next day. And it's a little bit of a cross between like a visual novel or a dating sim, where it's like, yeah, every single day moves by and you have a select amount of actions that you can choose within a day. And that is split between the things that you do in your life as a high schooler, because you always play someone in high school, and this really bizarre like other world that you end up discovering, and that's where all of the turn-based fighting comes in. And the way that they marry these two components together is that you have this whole social life in high school, so you make all of these friends, and the friends that you make represent the strength of bond that you have with the summons that you can have in the combat part of the game. So like there's like hundreds of summons that you can get, and it's a very large interweaving system. So you and because you're the main character, you're special, you can have multiple summons. That's usually something that nobody else in the game can have. So you spend your daytime trying to improve your social relationships in order to fortify your combat readiness with your summons whenever you go out into the other world. And that's that's the gist of it. And there's typically some pretty good writing to back it up as well.
Nice. Well, I was gonna ask for an elevator pitch, but you kind of delivered a
little bit more than an elevator pitch.
A whole fleet of elevators.
Yeah.
Just slam the stop button on the elevator.
What happened?
Talk about Persona.
I need to talk to you guys about Persona.
What happened? We walked into the elevator bank of a hospital.
You're stuck in here with me.
I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah. So Persona was clearly something that you're, excited to. This is the remaster of 3 that you're excited for, yeah?
Full on remake, actually. So
full on remake.
Full on remake.
So something that I saw that Sarge was interested in when we were looking at it together was yeah. I mean, you're overwhelmed at this point, so I'm going to remind you. Was Clockwork Revolution.
Oh yeah,
because it was the In Exile first-person RPG with the whole steampunk aesthetic, whole timey-wimey stuff, as you said.
Wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey.
Wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey.
Yes, I have watched Doctor Who as well.
Yeah.
David Tennant.
Yeah.
The best Doctor.
I'll trust your judgment. I have no no frame of reference. But In Exile was known for the Wasteland games, and prior to that, being some of the original, part of the original Fallout creative team. So moving to first person is quite a jump because they've been doing the isometric RPG turn-based kind of thing for a long time. So that was a surprise for me, a pleasant one.
Yeah.
Because this is more of a broader audience, trying to reach a broader audience kind of move. At least give a shot to have more people recognize, you know, the In Exile brand, I guess. Because it's usually limited to, you know, the people that are interested in the stuff that they know that they do already, which is the Wasteland stuff. So anyway, you were saying, Will?
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of value in isometric style games, but
Yes.
it doesn't necessarily mesh with everybody. Unfortunately,
it's niche.
It is niche, and unfortunately, I'm one of those people. I just can't do it. Isometric games, specifically, if your isometric game is like in any way turn based, I can't, and I don't know what it is that just doesn't mesh with me, but it is what it is, you know. So
Yeah.
I can see exactly what you mean. I agree. It's like, okay, maybe this is moving them into, you know, an area where they have a broader appeal, you know.
Yeah, and this could have been a longer term thing because they got acquired by Microsoft a while ago. It could be more of a Microsoft being like, hey guys, what do you have any project ideas of, like, you know, something that's first person, maybe a little shootery, you know, kind of thing.
Maybe something that's not like pre-rendered.
Could have been something like that, or it could have been just them being like, or working autonomously, because I know that, I mean, we know that Microsoft kind of does that to a fault too, when it came to like Redfall.
Yeah,
So,
Redfall is quite the topic. I'm like, I don't want to get too far into it, but you just
that's why I blacked it out on the outline, because we could talk about Redfall for a while too.
yeah. I mean, I just, you have to wonder like what happened and just basically leave. I haven't even
We'll find
touched the game,
we'll find
so.
out later, I'm sure. Like next year or the year after or something like that. Like once all the dust is kind of settled on that game,
Yeah.
or the sun has set for that game. I don't know. I don't know what's.
As far as Clockwork Revolution goes, though, this does look interesting. Like, it's an aesthetic that I enjoy, like the steampunkishness and everything. I would love to give this a shot whenever it comes out, assuming that, you know, it doesn't fall in with all of the other bajillion games that I'm like, that looks cool, and then I completely forget about it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of people are making comparisons to like BioShock Infinite, but knowing in Exile's track record, it's gonna share some aesthetics, but it's gonna have some deep mechanics that BioShock games don't have. So,
Which
I mean, there are a lot of comparisons to Bioshock, and it seems like everyone working on it was immediately like, no, it's going to be more RPG and open than linear, so it is different. Although, the trailer on the Xbox channel for the game registered it as Bioshock Infinite, which I found very funny.
which is funny and also kind of
oh my god, I just noticed that I'm looking at the same page.
Yeah,
annoying.
that's great.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Yep.
Booker DeWitt,
Okay.
is that you?
Couple other things that we saw. It wasn't just a pre-rendered trailer this time. Is we got to see some of Avowed, which was pretty much under wraps for a while, until the Summer Games Fest, which is Obsidian's fantasy first-person RPG.
That's just fascinating to me, really, because, like, you know, Obsidian is they're a sizable studio. They're a very capable, you know. So it shouldn't be surprising that they had something else that they had been working on for some time, right? But I had heard of Avowed. I guess the next thing I was just expecting out of them was like the Outer Worlds 2, you know?
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I had heard of this already.
Yeah, Avowed got like one trailer 2 years ago, I want to say, and nothing at all
That
since.
sounds about right. Yeah.
Like,
we
I
saw
put
a
it in
generic
predictions
fantasy
of seeing it, and I
trailer
was
thing.
still surprised that we heard anything about it.
Oh yeah. I was like, that was one of my prediction things before the Xbox thing. If you remember, like if I see, you know, if I see Avowed, Hellblade 2, and what else was it? It was something else, I think.
They
Or
did show
Final
off
Fantasy VII
Hellblade
remake,
too, didn't they?
or Rebirth. Like seeing all of those things in the Summer Games Fest, which all happened, I was gonna lose it, and I kind of did for a second. I deafened Sarge's chat.
Oh my god.
Because Avowed was like the final thing, which is crazy. And that's, you know, another example, Obsidian being the other side of the same coin of In Exile, you know, part of the Fallout legacy. They're also moving in the first person direction. Avowed takes place in the Pillars of Eternity universe. Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 are isometric turn-based games.
Which I've heard such good things about, and again, the whole isometric thing, and I'm just like, man, I want to, but I can't get myself over that particular style. So
they're doing another. They may be playing some 5D chess here going on, which is like getting people interested in the world itself with, you know, something a lot more palatable to a wider audience, and then if they're like, oh, I want more of this world, give me more, you know, of whatever you can, and then they go back to the Pillars of Eternity games and realize that, oh, these are, you know, good games in their right, I'm willing to give them a try. So I'm not saying explicitly that works for everybody, but it's
if you're gonna bring more people in,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I think it's a good strat. I already mentioned Hellblade 2. We didn't really see much about it. Like, Senua was just in a cave with her voices in her head and a booming voice from the cave, and that was about it. I think we got. Did we get a release date? I don't even remember. We got a release date. I just want to play Hellblade 2 also.
I mean, I never played the original, so.
Hellblade is amazing, and one of the supposedly most accurate representations of psychosis and multiple personality disorder you will experience in a video game.
Oh, really?
Yes. The voices in Senua's head are worked into the things that an interface would do. So if you're getting attacked from a certain side, the voice will warn you on that side.
Wow.
It's crazy and awesome, and more people should play Hellblade. Anyway, also Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yes,
I've mentioned a bunch of stuff already, but like
that was one that I think we all kind of saw coming to some degree.
I didn't think it was going to because of Final Fantasy 16, and I didn't want. I was guessing that there wasn't going to be too much overlap because Square Enix probably wants Final Fantasy 16 to have some breathing room, but no, they just dropped more Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth stuff too.
Well, I mean, at the very least, I'm happy that they're not putting it out this year and they're waiting until next year, because it's like, no, give 16 the
early 2024.
Space. So
And that's a sigh of relief for me too, because we have Starfield.
Yes. So
September.
Are we ready to get into Starfield, or
we can? Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So, man.
Yeah.
Jeez, where do we even begin with the Starfield thing?
It's a space game.
Well, you'll notice that I put down all of the chapter points in our bullets here too, from the video itself, so we have a timeline order of things that were shown if we get lost.
So, like, if there's anything that I want to start on to say that, like, I've got a little bit more confidence in Starfield than I did previously, it's because of the Todd Howard interview with IGN. Okay?
Really?
Yes, actually. I know that it's
Nice.
like at the bottom of our list here, but the Todd Howard interview, he was specifically asked, it's like, okay, so like if you know, when it comes to Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls, this is what you want people to feel or get out of the game. If it's Fallout 4 or, you know, the Fallout universe, this is what you want people to get out of the game, etc. What is it that you want people feeling whenever they play Starfield, you know? And I think he did a relatively good job answering that question in a manner that helped me to understand that it's like, this is what we were going for when we were making the game. You know, this is what we want you to feel. And I think he summed it up basically in 4 different points. He was like, okay, so this game is basically 4 or 5 different types of games summed up into one. It's the talking component of an RPG. It's the ground combat. It is the ship-based combat. It is the colony simulation system. And I think that there was another one, but it's like slipping my mind. But if you take a lot of the games and you kind of like, if you take Bethesda games, especially what's happened since Fallout 4, and you examine it, it's like, okay, well, it's more than just one style of game at this point, you know? Which was one of my larger sticking points with Fallout 4. It's like, okay, great, you got this big settlement system and building system, but I'm just here to adventure, man. That's all I want to do. I don't want to build a settlement. I don't want to build like these big interweb. Like, I know, like, that's a great thing. It's wonderful that they made that system, but it was such an enormously important component of Fallout 4 that I felt like I was being forced to do something that I had less fun with.
Yep.
And it took away from the subsequent playthroughs, because it's like I did tons of settlement building the first time I played that game, but every subsequent playthrough I'm like, I just don't want to do this shit. And then, you know, I find out that like a lot of different gameplay mechanics are routed directly through the settlement system, and I have to engage with it. So I have more confidence going, like, being blindsided by that change is probably what put the bad taste in my mouth. So knowing that going into it, that it's like, yes.
Wait, blindsided by the settlement?
Yeah. But not knowing that settlement, that you basically had to engage with them to such a deep degree. It's like,
gotcha.
as a component that's there, fine. But the minute that it's like, no, if you want to like play this type of a character, well, you kind of have to go through the settlement building system.
When it becomes essential.
Yeah, when it becomes essential, then it starts rubbing me the wrong way. And it was especially bad because it was like, that's not what I'm here for, and now it's being forced onto me, and I didn't know that this was gonna happen. But similarly, it's like, I've played hours upon hours of No Man's Sky, which is what Starfield is being compared to in a lot of ways. And I've not shied away from the settlement building in No Man's Sky, because I know that that's a thing that they do. You know, there's a lot of base building that you can perform in that game, and they've leaned into it. So knowing what to expect is basically what I'm speaking to. It's like, okay, well, these are the, you know, primary 4 or 5 different styles of gameplay, and these are all there, and there's a really good chance that if you want to do one, you might have to route through one of the others a whole lot. Knowing that from the outset can make all of the difference for whether or not you're going to enjoy it. And I think personally, I'm hopeful that that's the way that it's going to go for me. So
if we can go back a little ways, I want to see how much you remember. How much of the Fallout 4 reveal do you remember? Because from what I remember, a lot of settlement building was shown.
Yeah. It was shown off heavily, but it wasn't. And this gets into like the huge like essay that I'm still trying to produce for Fallout 4.
But the key difference is knowing whether or not it's an essential part of like the main kind of.
It's not that. It's like to make an example, I've done a lot of playtesting with Fallout 4 over the last year or so, and it's just not possible to play a big guns character in Fallout 4 without going through the settlement system and manufacturing your own ammo, and even then you almost will never have enough ammo to do it.
So to relate it, let's relate it back to what we're talking about now. Then we can do that. If we go back to Starfield, if you say choose to be interstellar trader, for example, like for example, you're going to need a ship. You're going to need some modification to the ship to be able to ship supplies and stuff like that. And with the preview that we got, we know what systems are integrated in order to allow us to do that. That's traveling between different planetary settlements, as well as the shipbuilding segment of it. Or there may be some prefabs of ships too, like we can just bypass the whole building it ourselves kind of thing too, which is actually an awesome kind of addition.
That's a huge thing right there, because it's like I've seen the shipbuilder and I'm like, that's really cool for one ship. I don't want to do that 1.5 million times over. I will have one ship that I maybe get deep into the weeds on and like really finely tune it. But if I want to be like an interstellar trader and I can't just buy a bunch of prefab ships to make that happen, then it kind of kills the whole thing for me, like, and it's like, I love the fact that they have these deep design and systems for like building your settlements, for building your outposts, for building your, ships. But if I have to build the ships manually every single time that I want to add on to a fleet to like do trading or something like that, well, that kind of takes the wind out of my sails, because I don't want to get into the micro details of like, it's like, no, I don't want to fine tune this ship. It's like, I need a ship. I need more ships. I don't care about how they look. I care about if they're going to do the job, and it kind of gets down to like how if you were running a proper business, you wouldn't care about those details. You would hire somebody else to take care of it, because you would be running the trade side of it. So I think that's a pretty good way to put it.
Yeah. Sarge, you've been awfully quiet. I feel like Will and I have taken over the entire conversation.
I feel like I may have said something that upset you.
I was waiting for more to be said. I'll be honest, I've just come off of like a 12-day headache, so my brain's not fully here.
Oh no.
Is it gone now though?
It literally went this morning. So
okay, well,
my
that's
brain's
good.
still rebooting.
I'm glad you don't have a headache anymore. That's nice.
But I am pretty certain there are pre-built ships that we saw in there, because they talked about going to, I can't remember the name of the person, but it was like the shipyard person and being able to buy the ships. So yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to be essential to modify ships. I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a small little early tutorial thing where it's like, oh, we need you to change the engine sort of thing, and you have to do it like one time at the start of each playthrough. I could see that very easily being a thing.
Oh yeah,
just the basics, like
and I don't have a problem with that. It's just like, yeah, okay, we're basically showing you that this is something that you can do, and then maybe like there's this longer other quest where you really get into shipbuilding, and you can completely ignore that if you're not interested in it.
Yeah,
but
the vibe during that section did seem to be like, we want to give you lots of choices and also the choice not to.
And that's super important to me. It's like, no, great, build your whole system there, but don't force me to interact with that, especially if you've basically built 5 games into one. Don't make me interact with like 2 of the systems that I just couldn't be bothered with when I'm over here for these other 2 systems on the side type thing, I just felt very railroaded with Fallout 4. So
Yeah.
On the subject of systems, what did you guys think of the hybrid skills / leveling?
Golly, I did not have time to like do a point by point, like frame by frame breakdown or check of the system like I did with the last time that they showed the game off. But if I'm remembering correctly, isn't it a situation where you get perk points basically when you level up, and then you put it into a skill, and then you further improve that skill by basically completing achievements, right?
Yeah, the first part, or the first point unlocks the skill. As far as I understand, the first point unlocks the skill, and then the following ranks of that skill are unlocked through use, or through completing challenges when using that skill.
It does look like you still need to spend a point on them as well. You just unlock the next rank.
Oh, when you unlock... Okay.
Yeah,
that's actually one of the things I was confused about.
I'm looking here because I wrote it down, I think. Did I write it down? Where is it? Yeah, you'd need to be level 329 to unlock everything.
Okay. So you not only... Like, you can't just put a point in to unlock the next level of it. You have to have done something special to get that next level.
Yeah, it does seem all the challenges are pretty simple. Like, the ballistic weapons one is like, kill 20 people with ballistic weapons. Like,
that one, I saw that one pop up on screen so many times. I was just like,
yeah.
That's going to be done so quick.
Yeah, it seems like all of them are pretty easy. It's just kind of you have to actually use this skill to get it better.
Which is fine. Like, that sounds a whole lot like an interesting intersection between the way that things were done in Fallout versus the way that things have been done in Skyrim, you know? And I don't have a problem with that. I guess my main question is, like, are the further unlocks for the skill, are they level gated? It's like, oh, no, you can't get that until you're level 32 or something.
I think the skills, I don't know if they're actually level gated. I think they said at some point in the whole some part of the direct, man, I'm super paraphrasing at this point, paraphrasing squared, that like each tier of skills, like you have to purchase so many in that tier to unlock the next tier.
Yeah, you basically have like
in the skill categories.
Columns of it. There's like 4 or 5 columns per thing, and you have to get like X amount on the previous columns before the next ones unlock. So you're working your way down the main skills. But it seems that the individual unlocks per each skill are just challenge based. There was nothing shown with like level requirements of a lot. So yeah, it just seems like you'll need the points for it.
It seems more interesting to me, and far more involved, because it's like, okay, well, that's not quite the same way as, you know, what they did in the Elder Scrolls, which I still love the system that they came up with in the Elder Scrolls to death. You know, it's just nobody else really does a whole lot of that.
Which one?
Just, you know, Morrowind through Skyrim. You know, the whole you know, you're using the skill, you're getting better at it. Just as simple as that.
Yeah.
Like,
skill growth is my jam too.
Nobody else really does that. It's very seldom that you see anybody else doing that. And Bethesda is basically the company that did it
This
first.
is my obligatory time to bring up Kenshi.
And it's my obligatory time to bring up the original Borderlands with its proficiencies.
That too! Oh my god, they had that.
Oh, I forgot about the proficiencies.
Yeah.
The proficiencies
one thing that Borderlands lost as it went forward that I wish
that's a real loss too. Like that was freaking great.
God, like that just, I remember being so conflicted about that, because it was like it's a bit of a sunk cost situation, because it's like, I've already skilled up with these guns. Do I really let myself break out of that cycle and do something different, or do I just stick to what I've already so yeah. But, you know, it's a good system, good systems. And I entirely like every single time that I've criticized, you know, like a level up system from like a Fallout 4 or something like that, and I make a video about it, there are people who are like, they should just do this the Elder Scrolls system in Fallout. They should just do the Elder Scrolls system in Starfield. I'm certain I'll hear. And I'm just like, man, that's clearly not what they wanted to do, and I personally don't believe that it would be a good idea to just recreate the exact same system in a different game either. Yeah,
here's the thing, and I've been having to remind myself of this too, and I feel like it's worth other people hearing too. Bethesda might be one of the few, very few, maybe a handful of first-party developers that actually take risks with their games.
Yeah, you're pretty right about that. They're also one of the very few studios that like takes a huge amount of time with their content. Like they'll be like, no, like we know that you're waiting for it. It's been 13 years since the last Elder Scrolls game, but we're busy with like our space game right now. Okay, so
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. But I feel like that's worth mentioning again, because like some cool stuff comes out of experimentation, and we don't get that out of a lot of first party developers anymore. Like they do the cookie cutter thing, and they do it really well. It still sells, but people get fatigued by it for sure. Whereas, there's always something interesting or different in a Bethesda game, and some are hits, some are misses, but they still experiment.
Yeah.
That's the thing, it's such a safer bet to go with, okay, we'll just make the same thing that worked last time and change the flavour of it more than anything, but keep all the systems the same.
I think the closest they came to doing that was moving from Morrowind to Oblivion, because there really wasn't an enormous change in the functional operation of how you played the game and built your character from one to the other. The only major difference was they got rid of like the roll to hit system. and they went with, well, was there physical contact between the two models? Yes. Okay, it hit. I was like, okay, thank God. Oh,
thank goodness.
Can you imagine Skyrim with roll to hit?
I'm certain somebody out there has like modded it into the game.
Yeah.
I was about to say that. Like, I bet there's somebody who is like, I want to live in hell in Skyrim. let's roll to hit everything.
And despite how annoying that system is, I still find myself wanting to go back to play Morrowind.
Yeah, well, it has a lot of awesome stuff to it, aside from, the roll to hit thing. and once your skill hits a certain threshold, especially if it's like a major skill, like it doesn't take long to actually be able to hit stuff.
I just remember playing that game. Like, I remember leveling up one character to such a degree that I was like, I'm kind of sick of hitting stuff so well. I think I'm gonna start working on those. Like let's work on spear. That's like level 5. Let's do something with that. So I went out and I found like a trashy spear, and I started clicking, and I was like, oh my God, like this enemy is incapable of killing me. I'm like a god to it, but I can't touch the damn thing. So what I did was I like opened up a book, and I just kept clicking, and I was reading.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's something we didn't see at all. Was any like what potential like lore source type things we'll find, like holotapey type of stuff. I know they intentionally like kind of keep a lot of the discovery stuff under wraps, because I'm sure the artifact, like the alien artifact related stuff is like super spoilery as soon as you start discovering things.
I mean, they showed off enough footage to make it clear that's like, okay, it's very clear you have a special skill, you have a special ability to like stop time or something.
You have a space shout.
Yes, you have a space shout. In space, no one can hear you shout except you, because you're the hero. So,
yeah,
I
thought that was a neat little tease.
Yeah. Like I'm not expecting too much out of the main story, because Bethesda's stories never really impress me in any way. And that's an entire topic that I'm certain that we could like dedicate to, related to like your alternative topics for the episode, which I don't think we'll get to. But like, it's the main quest. I'm certain it'll do some stuff that's interesting to me. I mean, it's like the last story that they wrote that I found, like there were a couple of twists in Fallout 4 that I was like, I did not see that coming, with the Institute and everything. Meanwhile, it was like, I remember playing through the story of Skyrim whenever it came out, and I want to say like maybe 3 odd years after I played through it the first time, I was sitting there, and all of a sudden it just dawned on me. I was like, what the hell was what was the struggle? in Skyrim? I don't remember, because Bethesda games are so wide and open. One of the things that I love about them is the fact that it's like, no, you don't have to follow their main story to have access to all of the mechanics. That's what's so lovely about it, because I'm like, don't get me wrong, your main story may actually be kind of compelling, and I thought it was in Skyrim, but I'm not here to be the hero of Skyrim. I'm here to clear out dungeons and collect cheese wheels, bro.
Yeah,
that's my goal. So
I like not playing as the Dragonborn in Skyrim. I find it a lot more fun.
Yeah.
But I also feel like a lot of Bethesda main quests function primarily as a tour of the different things you can do.
I was
Like,
That's
Fallout
also
the same wavelength, dude.
Skyrim, it's like, oh, you better go to the Thieves Guild and talk to them to find Esmond. Oh, you better go to the Mages College to find the Elder Scroll.
Hey, Sarge, I think we should look into piloting a Jaeger. Because our minds just met. Anyway, keep going.
I mean, that was basically the point I was having. It was just like, primarily they're touring you around, and then you get a story on top of that as well.
They've even scaled it back, because they expressly tell you in Morrowind, it's like, okay, well, you're too low level to like do the main quest. Go join the Mages Guild or something and do some shit over there. So like that's absolutely how things work for them.
I will say, on the point of levels, obviously we've gone over skills, and like there doesn't seem to be a specific level cap for that, although you will obviously need to be a certain level to go down in columns for each of the 5 categories.
Right, yeah.
But one thing I saw on Twitter was like planets having different levels.
Yes.
That
I saw that screenshot too.
Me.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can.
I think it might have been the ones that were like colony planets, though, like the ones that actually had atmospheres, if I remember right,
I've just
or
shared
the
it
ones
in the
that
chat.
actually had stuff going on.
I mean, it's got Alpha Centauri.
Oh
as
wait,
level
no,
1,
these
which is
are
cool.
Star systems. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm curious if these are like you can only go there when you get to that level, or if it's just like this is the recommended level.
That'll
I
make
hope it's
all
the
the
latter.
difference.
I feel it's limited by your grav drive or whatever.
Maybe it has to do with that then, because that would be the only alternative. I don't know. We don't know how they rank the quality of your grav drive. You know, because like I've seen that done. Like all of the space, all the space games basically have. It's like, yeah, you've got the warp drive, or you know, the light speed or whatever, and you have to upgrade it, and this is the way that we categorize that stuff. The most obvious one in my mind being No Man's Sky, where it's like, yeah, there's a cadmium drive and then there's an emerald drive type stuff. So they have their own like hierarchy that I could never remember off the top of my head. I just know that this is the next most powerful one I have to get. So,
or in its spiritual predecessor Spore, they just had numbers.
oh my god, I
And
never
you could
got
travel
that far.
further.
I never got that far in Spore. I was like, I stopped at the part where you danced with other little animals in the pond. So,
So creature stage.
yes, I stopped at the creature stage. Oh,
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Spore head.
ugh.
I feel like I feel bad for pulling back to the character creation part, but we saw a little bit more of the traits and backgrounds,
God,
but
that's an
no
absolute...
attributes. I did not see any attribute numbers anywhere.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
so I feel like some of the number crunchy stuff is going to be done in the background.
I mean, they've...
But Skyrim doesn't have attributes. If you would call, you know, your stamina, magicka, and health attributes, I don't call them that. Or maybe I did it in a guide or something, but they're not really.
To make it clear now,
guess.
what do you mean by attributes?
The special attributes in Fallout 4 are attributes, the numbers that represent, you know, strength, perception, endurance. Sorry. I was
So I
kind of
wanted to make
jumping all
that
over the
clear
place.
because I feel like you were just confusing
I
matters
felt
a
like
bit
I just
there.
alienated everybody else too by not making any sense whatsoever.
I
But
mean...
it may be the reducing the amount of maybe a little further reducing the amount of number crunching required, or just kind of keeping it at level with kind of what people are used to in Skyrim.
I mean, Bethesda has been moving in that direction for a long time. So if we don't if when the game comes out and nobody can find stats like attributes anywhere, that is going to be the least surprising thing to me. If they brought the numbers back in, I would be extremely surprised. Also pretty excited because I'm a number crunching type of guy. But
if it was like how I think the Outer Worlds did it too, like the Outer Worlds or Cyberpunk or something like that, or even Dying Light, where you could like just bring up your character stat screen, where it would just show all of the numbers that are, you know, derived from whatever off of your character. I think that would be cool. I don't know if that's going to be a thing.
I mean, overall, like I think what they've done with the skills and everything on the character is they've taken lessons that it's like the fewer numbers that they associate with your character, the better.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing Bethesda like as a design philosophy move towards. It's like, yeah, the fewer numbers people see, the better it is, etc., etc. So a lack of attributes, I think, not only makes sense, but like I wouldn't want Bethesda to go back to an old system that they don't believe in anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like going back and trying to play Oblivion these days is like, wow, this is actually a lot more restrictive than I thought because I'm focusing so much on the numbers.
I do want to be clear too that this is more of an observation than like an actual like gripe about it, because I like stuff that is more easy to understand at a glance than like stuff where you have to look at this number and then see how this number is affected by that one, and this skill has an additional benefit to that kind of thing.
I also think that background and traits are probably more or slightly more new player friendly than stuff like special is, because very often when I see people who are new to Fallout, they have no idea what to do with their special. Even with the description, they're like, but I don't really know quite how I want to play yet, and I don't know what feels good. I just, like, there's not the knowledge there. Whereas with background and trait, that's more flavour than substance.
And
so it's
you and I
easier
both
to go
know,
for it.
Sarge, that some of the descriptions of the specials were not accurate.
Yeah.
Sometimes included things that weren't true.
And I mean, it feels a little bit like that was a backslide on Bethesda's part, because they were like, the numbers are there, they're really important in Fallout, and they were coming off of Skyrim, where they were like, we don't really want the numbers there anymore, because one of the stories that Todd Howard was telling way back when was that they constantly got stories from players who played Oblivion where it was like, I had to start my character over, and it was never like I was so angry I had to start my character over because I knew what I wanted to play now. It was always, I was having so much fun, but I realized this is how I wanted to play, so I went back and I started over with a different character that was geared towards what I realized I liked. And that was a huge component of why they decided to style Skyrim the way that they did, because you just were what you did. So to that end, I feel like Fallout 4 was like, it was this weird situation of like, they had moved in this direction with Skyrim, but Fallout in general has all of these like hard numbers in it that are coming from a completely different design philosophy, and they still weren't comfortable with getting rid of them. So,
Going back to the taking risks kind of thing, that was a risk, creating the perks down the column kind of system. And Sarge has heard probably endless complaints from me about how I dislike how much is in perception to be a functional character.
Which Fallout is this for?
Fallout 4.
Oh man, see, I always play Perception 1 despite being a rifleman.
my word.
Well,
Because it's like I don't use VATS, so...
right.
I mean,
I was more talking about my complaint, my endless complaint about demolitions being way too far down perception for a melee person to enjoy it.
guys, could we? Oh my god, the freaking essay that I'm still writing. You're bringing up so many different character builds where I was playtesting. I was like, dude, like, this is a mechanical flaw right here. Do you not see
creating a
the way-
writer's room right now?
Oh, it like you are basically bringing up the gears that are existing in the game, and it's like they're not meshing together, dude, and they're slipping in other parts, and I'm trying to write out very clearly how this is a mechanical flaw and the reason why I got Oh, okay, moving on.
Here's what I appreciated from the Starfield Direct as a whole. It's not, obviously the game isn't here yet. They may release some like gameplay from the start of the game to about 30 minutes in or something like that. But I hope that they don't do the front-loady thing that they did with Fallout 4.
You mean the whole like pre-war sequence that you got?
No. The pre-war sequence was fine. The Conquered section, Minutemen needing your help, the power armor, the minigun, the Deathclaw, all of that stuff that could have been gradually like drip fed to the character. I'm hoping that they don't put all of that into the first 30 minutes to an hour or so. And leave some for discovery, but because it is a new IP, they have the opportunity to surprise us with all kinds of stuff, because we don't know what a space Deathclaw looks like.
Oh god,
if we're using the same example.
So can I just get a bit more context? Like what is it that was what was it that you don't like about that front loading component in Fallout 4?
It was strictly for marketing. I don't like that it was specifically, that section was made for marketing specifically, and too much power is given to the player too early, and death claws were made into a joke compared to what they kind of were.
Okay,
so,
yeah, I get what you mean, because it's like, yeah, they basically made that sequence in Conquered for the purpose of making trailers and showing it off at E3, etc.
yes.
So
yeah, and it did its job for sure. I'm not saying it didn't, but it lessened the experience when you actually got your hands on the game, because you've, at that point of the game, after doing just like the first couple of sections of the game, you know what power armor looks like, or you know what power armor feels like on your character. You've had your hands on a giant minigun, and you have fought one of the most fearsome things and probably killed it in that short span of time. So many things.
It would have been so nice to have like two separate moments, like a little later in the story, where it was like you finally get power armor, like where the Brotherhood is like, here's your suit of power armor.
Oh yeah, dude, that would have been like so much more
moment.
symbolic. Yeah.
And like coming across Deathclaws maybe for the first time in the glowing sea, like, yeah, could have been nice, iconic. Or
saving the like big guns, like tanking up moment to like the showdown with Kellogg. Like, wouldn't that be the most righteous thing? Instead of just handing you a fat man, which still is effective, but not as effective as it would be. Fight. Yeah, I'm saying like if they gave you those things, like when you went to fight Kellogg for like the first time.
I'm biting my tongue here, guys. I'm biting my tongue.
I'm sorry. Okay.
On the topic of Conquered, though, I'm just gonna bring up something that I've got a huge like gold star for Bethesda and Fallout 4. Despite the fact that Preston always gives you freaking settlement missions, he was still, in my opinion, the best companion in the game with the most compelling story.
I really like Preston, so I'm very happy to hear you say that.
Yeah. I can't stand how another settlement always needs your help, but he's got he's the guy who you meet at the start of the game, and he's got one of the longer stories for a companion to work through.
That's great.
Means so, and he's the one. It's like he's got the longest story that involves so many different locations on the map that you can go to and find out what the hell happened, you know? And that just, it's very rewarding. His backstory, gaining his trust, all that stuff, wonderful. And on that note, I'm just going to roll right over and say, companions in Starfield.
Great segue, Will.
That they show the little perk stat things on the right. Some of those with only one tier, I'm hoping are like unique things. Like the guy you find on an asteroid, I feel like he was, had like a special outpost skill. I'm trying to scan for and find him. Oh, he's somewhere here. I'm gonna find you. You can't hide from me. Okay, maybe he can hide from me. Okay, particle beam weapon system from Marika Boros. Seems like she'd be someone who you have on your spaceship, and your particle beam weapons are better. Who else have we got? Oh, I'm clicking for it, it's not showing me.
Okay.
There will be more. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be like unique or semi-unique skills just for followers that aren't ones that you would get potentially, and I'd like that if it was a thing. Can't like confirm it, but it seems like it's a possibility, and I want it to be the case.
Yeah, we could just match up, but they look like they're taking on the same icons as some of the ones in the actual skill trees. I mean, we have to see the full skill trees and their names and stuff too.
Yeah.
To get a full like comparison, I guess. But I would like that as well. Like the proper companions should have something that makes them special. I'm sure Bethesda put something in there. Yeah. With Barrett and Sam and Sarah.
I mean,
because those are three of the main ones.
When it comes to companions, I'm a little bit back and forth on them, because on the one hand, the first time I play through a Bethesda game and there are like, well, actually, I guess it's almost just Fallout 4 that has this, but like, if there's a story with that companion, I'm there for the story. You know, I show up, I'm like, you're coming with me, and I'm going to do what I have to get your story. And then once we're done, I'm going to be like, okay, we're done. And I'm going to go back to playing alone. Because that's my style. I'm the lone wanderer. Like, that's the perk I always take whenever I go back to Fallout 4 for whatever reason. But knowing that companions have these special skills, and that, like, it's not that I avoid the fun things that they do. It's just that I'm more of a solo player, and it's like, as long as they're with me, I'm trying to get as much out of the companion operation as possible. And any of that stuff, like, I have to, like, give it to me. I'm not here for it, but still give it to me type stuff.
Yeah. I have just checked, and it seems the skills are not unique.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's trash.
There might be like some in the future, but the ones I'm seeing,
it could be something hidden within their side quests and stuff like that, because they did talk about them having side quests and things.
Yeah, hopefully there's still stuff, but the stuff they're showing isn't like, oh, this is completely unique companion skill. It's
but the cool thing about the companions and crewing either your ship or outposts that you put around is like, apparently these these skill benefits can extend to their function on, like, at those places. And maybe even your companions may not even have to go with you planetside in order to gain affinity or whatever with them. They can just be a part of your crew.
I do wonder how affinity will work, because it seems like there's going to be a lot of companions and followers and mercenaries and the like, and if you do constantly have to have them with you, that'll be a little bit annoying.
It could be a little bit of Mass Effect spice in there.
It might be
like you have your A team, but you also have the rest of your crew that's on your ship you go talk to whenever, and kind of raise affinity that way.
I mean, there might even be the whole system, because, like, I think Skyrim had more companions than any other game they ever had. than any of your other game they've made, because like you go onto like the wiki or whatever and you start looking, it's like, oh my god, there's a stupid number of companions here. I remember doing that whenever I did my Skyrim playthrough. I was specifically trying to like use a companion for as long as they made sense, because they would max out at some point. And it'd be like, okay, I'm gonna say goodbye to you, and specifically because I'm weaving my way through the world in this particular manner, I'm gonna say hi to this other person, because it's like, oh hey, you want me to like clear out the bandits in your ancestral burial tomb or whatever type situation. And I wouldn't be surprised if like there's a distinct difference that they have in the game between the story driven companions versus like generic mercenaries and whatnot, and like potentially the kind of in between where it's like, well, you have a story, it's one quest long and that's it, but you still have a story.
They mentioned that there was the companions, and then there was the crew crew recruits or something like that. They said something along those lines. So it's like the difference in Fallout 4 between Fallout 4 companions and Fallout 4 settlers kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's, we can hope that there's more depth to it.
Yes.
I've done some more freeze framing and stuff, and Hela has a skill called Outpost Engineering, which I can't find in the skill tree.
Ooh.
So there might actually be some unique ones.
Oh,
maybe it's unique.
Stuff.
Maybe, just maybe,
like,
you didn't see that part of the skill tree.
I mean, it shows all 5 physical, social, combat, science, and tech. It shows all 5 main modifiers. It's only if like the icon changes, which there's a possibility of it doing so once you get it to max rank. That could be what's gone different here.
There is a possibility of that, because the intimidation one, when they were showing leveling that up, the gorilla was just like breaking through the whole frame that it was in.
Yeah, but I can't find like what one it would have been closest to if that is the case. So I'm like, well, maybe. But
either that, or they're just really good at something, which is fine too.
Yeah.
So they're gonna staff your ship and everything, which I guess is a reasonable moment to ask, what do you guys think about the space flight and everything?
It's going to depend entirely on how it feels. I think it's one of those things where, looking at it, I can't say if it's good or bad. It's not until I'm physically controlling it and the responsiveness is there and I can feel like the drift of a ship as you're moving. Until I've had that sensation, I don't know and will just be undecided on it.
I don't know how to feel, because I've never been a flight sim guy, like I'll do flight sims to some degree, it's like it's whatever, but like any game that has the ship to ship combat, it's like I'll do it a little bit and then I won't do it anymore, again, like the closest thing to compare this to being No Man's Sky. Like, I've tried the bounty hunting in that game, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of okay, but it gets very samey, and it's basically a big UI fight, because the markers on the screen are way easier to keep track of, and it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of depth to it. So that's another thing. Like, if I feel like it's less constantly like flying past one another, because that's most of what the ship-to-ship combat that I've ever experienced is. It's like, yeah, we're flying directly at each other, trying to hit each other, and then we go right past each other, and it's like, okay, I have to awkwardly turn it around. So,
well, they had the addition of the targeting systems, which is essentially VATS from ship-to-ship combat, which is a cool addition. But also, if you are able to disable their ship in one way or another without completely destroying it, you can board the ship and take it over from the inside, and then
that
to your
I
fleet
find
to sell and stuff like that.
A lot,
which is
interesting.
another fun dynamic on top of it, where you can just be, a straight up space pirate.
Yeah. I've already got an idea which I want to be able to do, which is building a tiny little super fast ship called the Grasshopper, which can just shoot over to ships, like dock on them, and then I can go through and steal the ship. I really want to do that.
That's which is a
I hope
fantastic
that's
idea.
doable.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like what was it like in the Todd Howard interview? He was asked like, what's one of the more memorable things you've had happen recently?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, like it's possible for a ship to land and try to attack you whenever you're on a planet. So I got into this firefight and I was like, all right, I killed everybody outside. I'm gonna go up into the ship, and then the ship took off, and now I'm in space. I was like, wait, that can happen? And
Yeah.
like that is a concept is like really cool, where it's just like, you know, okay, kill everybody on the ship, and then it's like, okay, I own the ship now. I better hail my crew and be like, hey guys, guess what?
Another ship to the pile, kind of thing.
And
Yeah.
the possibility to like to be able to make a choice of like, okay, I'm gonna take this ship and I'm gonna use it, or I'm gonna take this ship and I'm just gonna scrap it, or I'm gonna take it to a port and I'm gonna sell it. I like those three potential options, which I think all three of those things are options.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing I do hope is that once you've boarded a ship, you can basically pilot both at the same time, so to speak, like towing one with the other. I don't imagine it would go any more than 2 ship maximum, but I don't like the idea of having to like leave my own ship behind if I'm stealing another ship, kind of thing. And that's like a minor detail, which hasn't really been confirmed either way.
I could see that going one of two ways. Like, one, you have the towing situation, or two, it's like, okay, we have this ship, and you tell, you know, like a section of your crew, hey, this is what you got to do with it. Or it's like you get to radio out to, you know, like an operation or whatever, and be like, hey, this is my thing, and they just come out and they get it for you, you know? Like,
That'd be okay with.
like basically like, oh, okay, we've warped it away, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Like they either have a system where you have to awkwardly deal with it, or they basically they take it off of your hands in some
I'm
magic
wondering
manner.
if it's like a almost like a garage kind of system, but it's kind of always with you if you're at a spaceport. So like once you decide to take over an enemy ship, yours will just be kind of floating there until you summon it again from a spaceport. You know, like Roach.
Or
I don't know.
like No Man's Sky, which I can't stop referencing back to.
Starfield's going to be compared to No Man's Sky for a very long time.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think once it actually comes out and people are like, okay, there's more like immediate story and it plays quite differently, then the comparisons will fade away a little bit. But on the like, you can explore an entire galaxy kind of thing, everyone immediately thinks, oh, like No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not seamless. They've already made it clear that, you know,
Yeah.
you're like, there's a loading screen between on and off planet. It's like, okay, that's fine. It's no problem for me. But I mean, the statement that it is essentially a AAA take on No Man's Sky, I don't think is entirely wrong from what we've seen so far. It's like, yeah, okay, there's a lot of shared DNA there, and then we're gonna get the Bethesda stuff too. So,
Yeah. I part of me wonders like how different can something be when it's put in space?
oh man,
That's just what I wonder sometimes, because there's immediate comparisons, even if we're not comparing, you know, two games that are semi-recent, or at least fresh in our minds. You'd be like, oh, go back to, you know, Star Trek or Star Wars, or, you know, other, you know, space-oriented IPs. Like, there's always going to be some comparison of some kind. It's just whether or not it compares to the thing that you like, I suppose. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Like for like the aesthetic side of things too. It's obviously Starfield is a lot more muted than No Man's Sky is in its colors, and in their style that they went with was which was NASA Punk.
Yes, NASA Punk. I like what they've done with it because it feels like that 1960s 70s style of space exploration, which like they said, it's very familiar, you know. And even though we are in a different age of space exploration now, we haven't really had a saturating look at it like we have from the old stuff way back when. So what about exploration?
Exploration. That's the main drive that they talked about for this game. I mean, that can be said about, I guess, Bethesda games in general. Is the exploration discovery is a big, pillar that keeps players coming back.
The exploration actually has me nervous in this game.
Oh.
And
is it the 1,000 planets thing?
Basically, yes. And it's not that there's a problem with 1,000 planets. It's basically the fact that when you play any of Bethesda's previous games, you have a very simple task of getting from point A to point B during the main quest. And you do one of two things. You either follow that line or you say, forget that, I'm going to go off in this other direction. Regardless of which one you do, you are tripping over locations to find and explore, Yep. And I just don't know how that quintessential centric thing about Bethesda games will play out in a game with 1,000+ planets, I literally have no way to judge it because the worst outcome is that the interesting things are too far apart and you're not tripping over them and you just don't find stuff, And the alternative is that they've found some way to make it work, but it's like, okay, well, only certain planets are that densely packed with interesting locations, which means it's like, I don't even know what the name of the planets are because I haven't remembered them. It's like, oh, it's like, yeah, this planet the constellation is on that's like where all of that is happening, where it's you can't go 5 feet without finding a new interesting location, so I have that's the one thing that has me worried. It's like, which direction could it go? Where's it going to fall on that gradient? So, or is it something that I haven't even considered that's going to come out of it? So
I feel like most planets are probably going to be like quite clearly identified as like resource gathering / outpost securing ones, which are purely just, you go here, there's some stuff to scan, there's resources to gather, there's space pirates to fight. Just very kind of generic, but this will level you up, this will get you some of the stuff you need for upgrades and whatever. And then there'll be like plenty of, there's a side quest to do on this planet sort of thing one. And then just a handful, like a dozen or so planets, which are like the big central ones, where like there's a lot of stuff going on. That's what I kind of expect, but like you say, until we have it, we don't really know.
Yeah, I pretty much feel the same. That's what makes the most sense to me. But like you said, big ol' shrug until it's in your hands. So
yeah. One
bit of RNG we do know about, and which I can't say the word I was going to say before, hate. Legendaries and rares and stuff is in the game, and I wanted uniques. No. I wanted uniques so badly, and we're just getting the generic legendary stuff.
The randomly spawned stuff from Fallout 4 is back.
Oh yeah, I've got a screenshot here somewhere. I'm just going to boot it up. God, I have so many files.
Oh no.
Where is it? Legendary.
We haven't confirmed that there's no uniques whatsoever, but there was no uniques shown in the direct.
I don't care what anybody says. The uniques were the freaking thing that made Fallout 3 the best. That was what made a lot of the exploring amazing for me. It was like, oh my god, it's a special named gun.
You will find no arguments from Sarge or myself.
Yep. Now, though, instead of like a named gun, which would be really cool, you could have an incendiary calibrated deep mining space helmet with the technician, hacker, and incendiary effects.
Oh my god. Like, you are just bringing back extremely salty comments that I got from one of my friends when we played Diablo 2 back in the day. He was playing I think he was gambling from one of the merchants, and he was just like, okay, let's buy some stuff off the trader in the gambling game. And he was like, how, why, what is up with the names of some of these stupid pieces of equipment? And it was just like cold chest, and it was just like, oh my god, I hate this. So, like, he was unreasonably salty about it, and I
Okay. Here's do you think we need to hammer home, like, to the rest of it, because there are other people listening, I'm sure, I hope, to this podcast, why we think legendaries are not good? I don't know. Do you want to do a fresh take for us, Will?
For me, fundamentally,
if you were in an elevator. Sorry.
Okay. So the short version of this is simple, okay? Randomly generated weapons can be very generic and very boring and have uninteresting stories, and they're always going to be found in a very uninteresting manner, okay?
Science crate.
Yes. Yep.
Science
crate. Wow, hey, look, I found something in a science crate. As opposed to a custom named weapon where it's like, I'll never forget there was a gun called the Xuanlong assault rifle in Fallout 3. This thing was a special version of the Chinese assault rifle, and you had to find it by doing a very obscure quest involving knowing what prime numbers were in a museum. And even then, it was possible to not find it if you didn't go to a location and found a body that only spawned after. And none of this was marked, okay? That makes the gun way more interesting. It's got this huge, crazy, weird, and admittedly obscure quest that you have to do. So that adds value, that you had to figure that stuff out, or you watched a guide and you went through it and you were like, I never would have found this without the guide, you know? The whole story is a big part of the special gun, because it's set up as, and frequently whenever you find those guns, they are set up in such a manner in a lot of the previous games where it's shown to you, but it's like behind a force field or something, and you spend forever trying to get it. So that's what
you use an exploit with dog meat.
God.
And then everyone tells you off whenever you play the game because you've decided not to use the exploit, and they're like, why don't you just do it, though? I'm like, why don't I just toggle God mode if I'm going to do that?
Oh, man.
I will add on to the whole conversation as well that I think it can quite heavily disrupt balance on top of that.
Yeah, that's another component.
Yeah, the legendary system. I made a video in the 76 days talking about like how to change it to make it better while keeping the system, and I hope they'll do some of that in this game. But I was talking about how, like, if you kill a legendary Deathclaw, you could easily get a worse item than killing a legendary Radroach. And that just feels wrong. Like,
the pure RNG nature of legendaries is pretty jacked up.
Yeah, and you can end up with the best weapon in the first half hour, or never get a good weapon.
I think one of the better ways that I can sum this all up is to turn around and talk about a well-known game that's known for its RNG weapons, and that's Borderlands 2.
Yep.
Borderlands 2 has special named weapons, and the stories behind those special named weapons are pretty entertaining. But the minute that you pick them up, they're basically useless because you already found something better. And that just takes so much wind out of the sails whenever the guns that have stories behind them don't compare to just some random ass hunk of whatever that dropped out of the anus of a space creature.
There's like 2 or 3 unique weapons in the entirety of Borderlands 2 which are regarded as good. And the rest are like, well, that's just a gun. Or it's garbage. I will say, though, on the same note, Borderlands 2 actually did their legendary system fairly well, because the legendaries only dropped from specific named enemies in specific places, or had like some set parameters for how they drop, rather than just being anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And rightly so, they should have gotten that straight, because that's an entire central mechanic of the game. Like, the loot system is basically a huge part of what perpetuates it. But that's not something that perpetuates a Bethesda game. No one is showing up for random loot in a Bethesda game.
Yeah. I think if there's a bit more honing done, like, because we only saw one, if there's a bit more honing done on the type of stuff you get from certain places, that would be a step in the right direction if they're gonna continue bullheading their way into, like, let's make random loot.
I mean, they did show rare weapons as well, quite a few of them in like inventories and stuff, which are basically just like 1-star weapons, and the legendaries appear to be 3 stars.
Yeah, but if you go to a mining facility and you get a deep mining space helmet, the one that we're seeing here, if the loot kind of matches what, you know, the area that you're in, that would be, you know, for the space adventurer, that would be a signifier of like, oh, I should be keeping an eye on these places if I want to get this type of gear. Which would, again, probably be a step in the right direction, as opposed to just fully random all the time. Why is this ultra hard enemy dropping another rolling pin?
Oh my word. So since we're talking about guns, what about like the combat and everything? What do you guys feel?
One of the first things that were mentioned in the whole direct was new animations. You could see it in the running cycle. Like the walking, running, and then sprinting. Like, that looks so incredibly smooth.
They've come a long way.
Yes, they did. The melee looked a little bit more crunchy, just a little bit more than Fallout 4. I would have to see more of it.
What do you mean by
that's
crunchy?
That's obviously what interested me. A little more. I don't know what else to use as a descriptor. Impactful.
Yeah, there was like hitting the blow seemed to kind of stagger the enemy, seemed to look like it was doing more than when you hit someone in Fallout 4. There's just kind of like a generic animation played a lot of the time.
Okay, I see what you mean. Like, they react to your attacks better.
Yeah.
And I will say as well, it's quite select how much we've seen though, so it could be them cherry picking somewhat. That's another thing where it's like, until the game comes out, we can't be certain.
But I also loved, on top of that, seeing that they dedicated at least a section to the physical tree to using fists, which I sorely missed in some of their, like, giving it its due kind of thing, because the like weapons designer or something like that, he was talking about the neural strikes perk, which was just like uppercutting people then flying away. Which I'm really excited for. I want to do that. So
I'll admit that was something that I was very surprised when I was doing my playtesting through Fallout 4. I'm not usually a unarmed character when fist punching, but I would, like, when I got into it, I was like, there, what, 6 weapons? What do you mean?
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I like started this channel, I think, right before Nuka World came out, and I noticed how few unarmed weapons there were. So I was like, okay, going into Nuka World, I'm gonna make some unarmed builds, because clearly they're saving all the unarmed weapons for that DLC.
Nope.
We'll add in like a whole bunch of them. That's gotta be what's happening, right?
Hey Sarge, I heard you like 50,000 baseball bats.
I'll admit, despite the fact that
and a knife.
Despite the fact that I almost never use melee weapons, the times that I have, I'm like, this is fun. I wish I had more than 12 weapons, though. And even then, like, all of the modifications for the baseball bat, it was like, I don't know, it's like, just pick your poison. One is not necessarily better than the other, and there's not really a whole lot of reason to change between them.
Oh, I will say on the terms of modding and stuff as well, we only see a tiny bit of weapon modding in this, but I
Yes.
like already how there's some choices. Like, we see that you can go for, like, a really big magazine or explosive ammo, and that's, like, an actual choice where you're making a decision instead of scrolling to the bottom of the list.
Yeah. And also mod limits, right?
Mm-hmm.
We saw
like
mod
App
limits.
6.
Man.
Yeah.
So what, you mean you can't turn a handgun into a heat-seeking missile damaging?
I mean, you probably can, but you can't also have a suppressor on it.
Suppressed missiles.
So this gets onto the the crafting and the outpost stuff, right? Like the modding of your guns and whatnot. This is something that's been carried through kind of sticking point for me in regards to Fallout 4. It's the fact that there's a lot of things that, like, you needed to do certain amounts of settlement building to gain access to certain stations within a centralized location, you know?
And now you can put them in your ship.
So, like, this has always been an issue. This was a consistent issue for me every single time I went back to play Fallout 4. It was like, hey, can I not just, like, why do I have to, like, tech so far into a different tree just so I can have a bench to do something that I'm already specialized in? You know?
Yeah.
This is going to be a big one for me because, again, like, I'll probably do the outpost thing a whole bunch the first time I play the game, which is great and fine. But chances of me wanting to go back and do it again the second time, the third, and the fourth, it's like they'd better have a way for me to, like, get my hands on those crafting benches without having to, like, become a full-fledged engineer to build a crafting bench.
I feel like they will, because they are going to be ship add-ons as well. It may come down to your own skill or your crew skill, because they do have crafting skills as well. So,
I mean, if it just comes as simply down to is like, oh no, that's an expensive add-on at the shipyard, I'd be fine with that too, because it's like,
oh yeah,
no, I've got other ways to make money. Okay, I'm a trader, but, like, I need the freaking bench and I can't build it myself.
I think there's going to be a way to work around that if like your character build is not going in that direction. That you're going to be able to have, you know, your crew kind of fill that gap instead, as well as, like, having those workbench add-ons in your ship and or your outpost, which is, I think that's cool.
I'm super hopeful because it's the work, like, it's the different routes to the same point that really matter to me the most, you know? It's like, okay, this is what I want to do, but I do not want to do it that way. Please give me a different way to do it. And, you know, that was an issue in Fallout 4. So
Yeah. So, say more open role-playing opportunities or something along those lines. Interesting.
Careful there, Caedo. They've been removing the numbers from their games. Can we still call it a role-playing?
I'm not rolling dice, therefore no rolling, no role-playing. They're similar words, therefore it makes sense.
I swear I've seen so much recently of, is this game actually an RPG? And it's just for everything these days. It's constant.
Is this really an RPG? I don't see any dice. As I take a sip out of a small teacup with my pinky finger raised.
Yes. I'm stoked for just the wide variety of choices we're going to get when it comes to character building, because is this like the first time Bethesda has given us some kind of trade system, like full on in character building? Because, like, we had mutations in 76, like that was the closest to traits that had trade-offs. Was there like an Elder Scrolls variant of that, or was it just all
like
bonuses?
The sign you're born under.
But there was no
Works in a
downside, right?
similar way.
Yeah, your star sign, but those were almost never, like, I want to say 75% of them had a negative attribute, and then there were 25% that were nothing but positive. And it was like, well, what are you gonna freaking choose, man?
Yeah.
So
Steed every time.
what was it? I think I was always doing the lady because it gave you a bonus to endurance.
Mm.
And the older Elder Scrolls games, like, they did not retroactively calculate your health, so you wanted high endurance from the minute you were out of the gate.
Yeah.
Like, to this day, that's something that I wish they had looked at it and said, instead of saying, that's kind of unbalanced, we should probably
the endurance in Oblivion, that can kill playthroughs if people don't know
I mean,
what they're doing.
Equally as crazy in Morrowind, because there were no number caps in Morrowind. But like I always looked at that where it was like, oh yeah, you want high endurance from an early level to have more health, because of the way that the calculation is done every single time you level. So more health gained every level. You get the idea. I always looked at that and said, that's unbalanced, but what if you just took that flaw and you leaned into it with all of the other skills in the game, where it was like, if you really lean into having tons of magicka, you're going to have a stupid amount to cast spells that other builds can't even come close to touching, type thing. And basically taking that quote unquote flaw that they decided to remove in its entirety and instead really lean into it to create a system where it's like, well, if you know what you're doing, you can become absurdly powerful in the game in a very unique way that's just gleefully fun. But that's not what they did, so
but I already liked just hearing the word traits, because I was like, oh good, they're doing the thing that I want. Because like going all the way back to the classic Fallout games, like that is some of the most fun you can have when you're building your character. And in like Fallout 1 and 2 in particular, like there was some that would like severely handicap your playthrough, but it would definitely make it more interesting, after, a couple of playthroughs of being like, oh, I've kind of become a god character kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the difference between playing through the game again, knowing what you're doing, versus the first time that you went through.
Yeah, as an example, if we go back to the dice rolling stuff, rolling a nat 1 is a critical failure. And in Fallout 2, there's a trait called Jinxed, which means all of your failures are critical failures. Yep. So if you roll under the threshold, you just fail, and then fail spectacularly. But everyone else fails spectacularly too.
So you this is a curse that you carry.
So everyone crit fails when they fail. Which is one of the most fun and disastrous things that you can do in a playthrough. And like so having that knowledge with me, like the whole time of like loving the Fallout series the whole way through, and then seeing the traits kind of slowly disappear. And New Vegas of course had traits, but they were kind of muted for the for the first person RPG kind of genre. There was a lot of nice options though. I did like that. I like the direction they're going with the traits on Starfield, because they have in-world stuff. Like this is like the Bethesda adding their little spice to it. They have in-world stuff that is related to it that just happens.
I also like how you're not permanently locked into the traits either. You can take one and be like, okay, this, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like, okay, well, I did this. I thought it was a good idea. I thought I would enjoy it. Maybe you did enjoy it for a while, and it's like, let's just not do that anymore. Let's go ahead and get rid of that adoring fan.
Yeah. So Will just brought up the hero worshipped trait that was probably the longest shown in the Starfield Direct, because all of us who had played Oblivion recognized him probably immediately.
I mean, the fact that I am just tickled pink by this Easter egg that they've basically put in there, and to know that they got the same guy back to do the voice.
Same guy, almost the same dialogue, just made for Starfield. Like it's great that the adoring fan is back and here to annoy us in another universe.
There's also something to be said for like getting the exact same guy back to do the voice when it's like, yeah, he was like 1/5 of everybody who talked in Oblivion, and now, yeah, go ahead and bring the guy back. We're still on good terms with him.
Yep.
I love it. I just there's something incredibly special about that gives me the warm fuzzies.
Yeah. So that was purposeful. Like, that was just a wink and a nod to, like, the long-term Bethesda fans and stuff like that. Look forward to other people experiencing the adoring fan if they haven't already. Because it's gonna be great. Also, on top of the traits, which are the things that have positives and negatives, there was the kid stuff one, which you have parents if you choose that one in universe, where you can just go visit them at their house, but the trade-off is that you have to forward some of your earnings every single week to them.
That'll be an interesting one. I like, just because that seems a whole lot to me like something where your I'm wondering how the discussions with those NPCs would work, right? Because it's like a whole lot of the way that Bethesda has done their character building is that they do their absolute best to give you a completely blank slate, and you don't know what your background is. Like, they do that with Elder Scrolls. They kind of had to break that. They had to break that to a pretty good degree with the Fallout franchise, but Starfield it's new, it's different, and it's like, yeah, you could be like this completely blank slate, but you could also have these parents, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Are you gonna learn something from these parents about stuff you did when you were a kid or something? It's like, oh, you remember that time you ran off the toilet before you were done?
Are you gonna come home strung out after going to Neon and snorting fish?
God.
And they're gonna start giving you a lecture about not snorting strange fish on different planets. And coming home high.
I'm very intrigued by that, because the idea of interacting with your past is something that Bethesda has flirted with, but they haven't really done a whole lot of. Mm-hmm. So seeing the way that they do that is always entertaining to some degree.
If they're reactive to like the stuff that you're doing in the colonies, like that would be so cool. Like, in relation to like the megaton thing.
Yeah.
Like, you get one little tiny line of dialogue from James if you blew up Megaton or saved Megaton, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
It would be interesting. And that's just it. It's like, how deep are they gonna go with it? Because it's like, okay, well, if you do this, if you make this decision in the game at some point, does that, like, are they gonna write far enough that it's like, yeah, your parents will have suddenly this whole dialogue tree that we wrote specifically for if you made that choice, because this dialogue tree is it's where you made that choice, and now they've got this version of a backstory for you that they'll talk about to you. It's
I am curious if it will interact at all with the religious traits, because there's raise different religions. I do wonder if you select that along with kid stuff, if your parents are then that religion.
That might be interesting.
Or maybe they're a different religion and they just go to town on the fact that you converted at some point.
Or they only react to your background, which would also make sense. I don't know. We'll have to see. Any sort of reactivity though from the the trait parents would be pretty freaking cool.
I mean, any way that a game responds to a player in a way that you don't expect is really, really good. Like, I remember seeing tons of stories whenever Red Dead 2 came out where people were like, I had no idea that this game would do that, where it was like, yeah, I went and I shot somebody and it turned out that, like, they were the only person responsible for bringing food to a farm or whatever, and then I went back later and the whole family died because they didn't have any money, and it was, I didn't know that the game engine would keep track of shit like that. Holy wow. So, watching the ways that these sophisticated systems will keep track of your actions, and then, if you catch on to the fact that there are consequences to it, it's always interesting. Some of the best parts of modern games. So,
for sure. So I remember that being one of my highlights when we got the Outer Worlds too. Remembering how reactive, especially to dialogue and different checks, NPCs were.
I mean,
it wasn't just like one or two phrases. It would be like full on sections of conversation.
That really was where the Outer Worlds shined its brightest. It was the dialogue and the communication with NPCs. It was some of the better stuff I've ever played. Like, I don't know where I would put the Outer Worlds in relation to Fallout New Vegas with dialogue and communication, because I've never given it that much thought. But all of my memory about the Outer Worlds is like, oh my god, these NPCs, they're so good. And talking with, like, it's talking simulator version like 3000 in here. I can't get enough of it. So,
and some modern dumb dialogue too if you play dumb character.
Yes,
which is so hilarious every single time. On the topic though, like we didn't say too much about like the backgrounds on characters. So the backgrounds, there's like I want to say there's like 20 of them.
That's a lot.
I want to say around 20, because
as someone who has to write character backgrounds, 20 is not enough.
It has a scroll bar.
Oh my god.
But the backgrounds are like the starting skills for starting skill sets for your character, and they can be referenced through dialogue throughout the time you're playing, and probably through other means that we don't know yet.
Yeah.
So
I do actually really like that they're not super specific and nailed in.
Mm-hmm.
That they're just like, oh, you were a chef at some point. Like, yeah, that's exactly the broadness I want.
Yeah, it's like saying, oh, you were a courier at some point.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was I shot?
Or
did Ron Perlman tell my story previously whenever it opened?
Did this fiend keep getting shot in the head by a 50 cal?
Oh god.
Shout out as well to Cyber Runner being on there, because Neon already looks like a super cyberpunk city.
Oh yeah.
So at some point, got to do like a full cyberpunk build.
And there's two there though too, like Cyber Runner and Cyberneticists.
Yeah.
Or Cyberneticists, so Cybernetics. So that's two in that general kind of category of cyberpunkiness, which is cool.
I'll admit, like, seeing some of the settlements out there where it's like, yeah, this is kind of like the Wild West of space, you know. That's got my interest as well. The fact that
Aquila or whatever, I think it's called Aquila.
Like, yeah. I like how they've managed to cram a bunch of different aesthetics into it, you know, between all of the different settlements. So I'm certain there'll be enough of just like generic, oh yeah, space thing going on. But the fact that they've got various themes that aren't totally drenched in the theme of the game is really nice, you know, where it's like, yeah, everything in Fallout is very post-apocalyptic and it doesn't really venture outside of that. There are no really themed towns or cities. It's like, yeah, you got Diamond City and Good Neighbor, and
I think I just drew a line that I don't know if you guys are gonna like it.
No.
It's like Nuka World but in space.
Okay, so you're either gonna hate me or you're gonna be amazed by this. I still haven't played Nuka World.
No.
Hold on, what was this whole, I've done so much testing on Fallout 4, here's all the, you guys, come on, you've not done...
Call me crazy, but like, a lot of it comes down to testing the, 0 to 30 range with a bunch of the weapons, because that's when you start to feel out whether or not a particular build is actually viable in the game.
Dude.
He builds his Sarge's region. I'm just gonna let him fume for a bit.
Like,
Go on.
don't-
I'm listening.
I don't know. No, you know what? It's too broad right now. I can't say anything. If there's anything specific, I can put a comment in, but this is too broad.
I mean, all I can say is that usually I don't play the DLC whenever I'm place testing a character.
That's fair. It's for never having played it.
Yeah, the never having played it
bugs
comes
me.
to, like, most of that comes down to the fact that, like, once I'm one of those players where, okay, I'm going to voraciously consume this entire game, but the minute that I finish the main quest, all my desire to play additional content evaporates.
We're like
Oh, wait,
in that way.
hold on. Earlier you said, like, heavy weapons, you run out of ammo and stuff, and that's a real problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, what brought up in my mind then, because I have made heavy weapon builds, is often I find myself having to go heavy into, like, bartering. Not necessarily bartering perks, but looting and doing giant bartering runs just to buy up every bit of ammo, which is annoying, but kind of makes it work. It's, like, not ideal, so I don't think it, like, counters your point as such, but it kind of forces you into that if you want to just use heavy weapons, and it can become a bit monotonous. However, if you beat all of Nuka World and like the post-endgame stuff for it, you don't have to worry about ammo for heavy weapons, is all I'll say.
Okay. I did not know that.
I'm not going to spoil the exact thing, but yeah.
So what Sarge is saying is you should play Nuka World and stream it, perhaps.
To be fair, you do need to beat the entire Nuka World story and then go back for another like mini side story.
So like
So
this kind of that kind of ties into like a fundamental example that exists in Fallout 3 with the pit, because they give you the ammo press at the end of it.
Yeah.
And you can repurpose any bullet into any other bullet.
Yep.
Basically, the way that I go at the game is like, is it telling you that this is a weapon choice that is valid because of the way that the skill system is built? And it's like, okay, well, the way that it's set up, it's pretty much telling you that heavy weapons are completely valid from level 1 to play with. If you know nothing about this game, are you gonna be able to do that? And
yeah, for 5 entire minutes. Come on.
and that's more or less the perspective that I'm going at all of these hang-ups that I have with the game. It's like, if you don't take time, if you don't basically get a PhD in Fallout 4, can you play all of these different play styles? And if not, this is a mechanical problem with the game, and it's been my personal endeavor to try to figure out why I put so many hours into it and still don't like it, you know? So there you go.
I really wish I got my Fallout 4 PhD. I've spent enough time in it. Like, I deserve one for Fallout 4 Skyrim and 76, quite frankly.
It sounds a lot to me like you're closer to the Fallout 4 PhD than I am, but
I mean,
It's possible.
I'm pretty sure I'm at over 1,000 hours at this point, and I've basically stopped playing it.
You should be.
Yeah, I'm quite a bit over. Yeah.
You might be past me at this point. I'm at 1123.
1350.
Yeah.
I'm a baby over here. I have 427. Okay. We're 2 hours in now. Should we wrap up?
That is very sensible. Don't argue with this, Caedo. Don't argue. I hear you getting ready to argue. Don't you do it.
As the host, I may agree to wrap up the whole, like, we didn't go over every single aspect of the Starfield Direct because we're good at talking about things that we're really passionate about, and I like doing that with you guys. What else have you been playing?
Who goes first?
That either one
You
of you
do.
can jump in is
I do.
guess
Okay.
first. Okay.
What have I been playing? Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. That is a big chonkin' game. That's I couldn't believe it the other day. I saw an article where someone was like, okay, let's talk about the ending of this game. It's been out for a month. And I was like, wait, it's been out how long? No. That cannot be true. But yeah, the game is absolutely absurdly large, and because of how I like to basically play games with a fine-tooth comb, and they've like tripled the size of the world from Breath of the Wild. I'm like, oh, this is taking a lot longer than I ever thought it would. Oh, this is gonna take much longer than I ever thought it would. So, yeah, I'm still playing Tears of the Kingdom, and nowhere near done with it. I've only done the first 2 dungeons. Yeah, so
Wow.
my understanding is that there's 4, maybe 5.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask, do you have a count of how many Koroks you've bullied?
God. I'm up to the point where I'm like, look, it's a Korok. He's going to be stuck on the side of the road, unable to waddle his way around forever, because I'm done with him. I'm done with Koroks.
You gave him the cold shoulder.
I mean, my understanding is that there were 900 in Breath of the Wild, and they put another 900 in Tears of the Kingdom.
Nope.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's...
I feel sorry for Gerard the completionist.
Oh, man. It just, like, I never got the actual count or number before, but I always saw, like, a generic image of the map from Breath of the Wild, and it was like, oh, by the way, if you wanted to know where all the Korok seeds were, and the map was just spammed with, like, you couldn't even see the map. There were so many Korok icons on it.
Like, it was just full of markers.
And I didn't realize that it was because there are literally 900 in the game. I was like, okay, I knew it was a lot. I didn't know it was that many, though.
That's too many. That's
too many.
You know, if Bethesda's taking notes on how many collectibles they should add to their game, that is way too many.
Yeah, that is. I mean, on the note of collectibles, make them worth something. At the very least, Bethesda.
Yeah, don't give us a golden turd at the end.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not a big fan of the Korok seeds, but hey, at least they have a functional purpose. Don't go doing a Dying Light where you give me freaking zombie statues to collect and they do zip, you know?
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Useless collectibles
Same.
are the most infuriating things in games for me. I'm like, no, you put collectibles in that game and you make them count for something, damn it. Like, you give me the lucky 8-ball out of Fallout 3. You hear me?
Yeah. That's a collectible.
That's a real good one, too.
Yeah.
Because you don't even know to look for it.
Yeah.
Other than Tears of the Kingdom, I'm cursing the fact that I can't play more 7 Days to Die because they're running experimental builds right now, and it's very possible. Like, I started a new character on their new experimental build for their latest update, and it turns out that when they do updates on experimental, you can just completely lose all of your character progress. So
Yep.
And I was like, oh, okay, then that means I'm not playing this yet. So that's great.
That's test builds.
Test builds. Ugh. Bane of my existence. There we go. That's me.
That's Will. How about you, Sarge?
I've been playing a couple of games. I've got Loop Hero, which is like a little roguelite thingy where you go around a loop and you're the hero.
Nice.
You don't actually control the character. You just equip them with items and build the world around them, and that's the gameplay. It's been quite fun. I've got into the roguelike style of thing where it is like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this 20 times to gather resources to upgrade this one thing. And I've got to the point as well, there's kind of a very clear cutoff point with the achievements, where like the first 3 or 4, like 80-90% of people have, and then it drops down to like 10%, where clearly you have to get over a bit of a grind to get the really rare stuff. But I'm now getting like 0.2% of gamers as I've unlocked this achievement. And it's just like beating boss 2 of the game or something. So, it's fun, if a bit
repetitive
of a curve to get into. Yeah. One thing that I just booted up the other day as well is Chained Echoes, which I've told Caedo to play a lot. Why haven't you played it yet, Caedo? It's even better now.
Oh, no.
It's got its first major update. For those not aware, it's like a pixel art RPG, very like Secrets of Mana, old school Final Fantasy, that kind of thing. But updated for the modern day. it now has, like, it's improved a couple of the things that weren't so good. Like, previously there were, like, crystals that you gathered, but now you get options on what crystals you get, which just is a nice quality of life thing. And they've added New Game Plus, which is what I'm going through. And the New Game Plus gives you a bunch of options, rather than just being, oh, you start again with all your gear. You can choose to start with your gear, you can choose to start with your skills, you can choose a higher difficulty, you can choose random chests, which means every chest in the game just has a random item in it. And like there's just a bunch of different options, which I think should be the way to do a New Game Plus. Because it means you could start it entirely as normal, just again, or you can throw in some other things. And right now I've kept all my equipment and stuff, because I want to beat some of the tougher endgame bosses that I wasn't able to do on the first playthrough. I like lots of the optional super difficult ones, but I'd also like at some point to do another playthrough where I just go through and the only thing active is random chests, so that I just get completely random equipment to deal with, because that'd be fun. Oh, and random merchants as well, because that's been fun. Going through and some merchants accidentally selling the ultimate weapon of the game, along with basic dagger.
That's great.
I do like the art style that they got going here.
Oh, it's good. It's good. It's so good. It's my favourite game of the past few years, like,
Sarge
easily.
really wants me to play it.
And you haven't, and it's on Game Pass.
I know, I installed it. That's as far as I got.
You know just as well as I, Caedo, that installing a game means nothing.
I know.
It means you put it on the hard drive and you said, I'm going to play this, and then you proceed to boot up something you've played 1,000,000 times already.
Yep. Like, at least 2 of my games.
Oh, might those be 2 of the games that you've been playing?
I don't know. Are you finished, Sarge?
Oh yeah, I'm now just looking through screenshots of Chained Echo, so I'm going to be out of it for a minute or two.
All right, cool. All right. So, I have been playing the Gloomrot update for V Rising, which is a vampire survival game with the perspective and kind of play style of a Diablo.
Or a MOBA.
Or what?
Or a MOBA.
Or a MOBA. I don't like MOBAs, so I'm going to say Diablo style. The new biome and how kind of everything fits together now, research-wise, is a bit more smooth. Up until a certain point, where it looks like the new Gloomrot area got split into 2 difficulty levels. So like you do the first section of Gloomrot once you're done with, you know, the basic like bandit and human areas, and then you go to the Cursed Forest as well as the Silverlight Hills, and you know, do some stuff in there, and then go to the second part of Gloomrot, which is a little disorienting when it comes to like doing research and stuff like that. Up until I hit that point, it was actually pretty fluid and straightforward, and didn't take as much time as it used to when it came to like gathering resources,
so they streamlined
smelting everything down, upgrading stuff. Some of the costs for things actually got reduced, or some of the ingredients required got removed. Generally a lot of streamlining got done, again, up until a certain point. And even the new bosses, also some of the new bosses that my partner and I have fought, still fun. The bosses in V Rising are some of the best you will fight in a survival game. I believe that wholeheartedly. And so if you're after like games with bosses that are actually fun and that you can learn off of fairly easily, like it's telegraphed really well, yeah, I suggest V Rising. It is an early access game, but it's one of the 2 survival games that I will recommend because it feels so good to play already. And whole chunks of it will still, you know, take tens or potentially hundreds of hours of your time, if you let it. So that's enough about that. One comfort game that I go back to, I don't know about you, Will, is Final Fantasy VII. This is the PC version I've been playing, the original.
It's been years, man. It's been years. The last time I booted up FF7 was right after finishing the remake, being like, man, I need to go through that same sequence, and I think I got, I don't know, a third of the way through the content, and then I was like, oh, I gotta quit. I gotta go like run errands or something, and then I never started it back up. So
yeah. So I've got this cool like bed table. So like I've been playing a lot more games in bed lately.
Oh no. Oh
yeah.
That's...
So FF7 has been my laptop game that I just fire up when I'm just laying in bed, and get my controller out and start playing around.
A laptop? You're not cool with all of the other kids and having a Steam Deck?
No. Kite has the Steam Deck. I'm not much of a handheld user.
I know what that's like.
Yeah, but I'm doing things a little differently than I do usually when I play Final Fantasy VII. I decided to not grind, like do the minimal amount of grinding, because it's so easy. Like once you know enough about the game, like you know the perfect spots to like grind up limit breaks and stuff like that. I'm trying not to do that, which is really challenging on its own. But also, I'm choosing to play with characters I don't normally play with. Like, I'm choosing at this point to play with Kate Sith and Yuffie, some of the most disliked characters in the game. So I think that'll be interesting when I get to disc 2 and 3, because I've never like done a full run with them, because they completely get outshined by a few other like some of the other characters, both combat and character wise. So except for when it comes to morphing, Yuffie is the morph queen.
I was going to say Kate Sith's limit break as well. Just insta-kill bosses can be kind
chance to insta-kill bosses.
No, guaranteed. Just get perfect on the
just keep reloading your game and it'll work. God. Yeah, his two limit breaks are dice and slots. They're both randomized bullcrap.
Slots.
I hate him. Anyway, so that's what I've been playing primarily. And also, those of you Star Wars fans who like thinking of nostalgic Star Wars games, Star Wars Republic Commando, that game kind of stood out from the rest of the shooters of the like 2000s era for good reason, because of its squad mechanics. After playing Operation Anchorage and Fallout 3 and reminding myself why I don't really like that DLC, and going back to a proper shooter that has squad mechanics that actually function, man, Republic Commando is freaking great. All the interactions between the squad, like there's almost never a dull moment. It is a little linear as shooters go, but it's a pretty solid game still, regardless of how old it kind of looks now. So that's what I've been doing. I one-upped both of you by having 3 games.
I've also played Apex Legends.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Boom.
And then I made you sad with the article I sent you about it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. That was the PIPCAST, everyone.
Yeah, it
Caedo
was.
does the outros.
Oh. It's like you're just handing me it.
I played Deep Rock 2, so...
Oh, you did?
Sad.
We played Deep Rock together also.
Well, they just came out with Season 4, I believe, so...
Ooh. Deep Rock Galactic. Space dwarves with guns, shooting bugs, mining stuff.
Danger, Darkness, Dwarves.
Yes.
Which I'm probably going to end up playing more of that now because of what happened with 7 Days, so...
Yeah. Thank you, Will, for joining us for this Starfield edition PIPCAST.
Too bad we weren't able to squeeze in more Starfield into it.
Yeah.
But that's how it is.
We could do a follow-up at some time. Maybe there's going to be more stuff that comes out. Anyway, thank you for hanging out with us. If you want to find Will or Sarge or myself, all of our deets are down in the description. You know where I am. I'm right here. Until next time, thank you, everybody, for coming and listening and hanging out with all of this, Starfield and Summer Games Fest and stuff going on. We will catch you in a couple of weeks on the next PIPCAST 3000 every other Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.
Bye.